Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with honor and blessings that you deserve from the infinite creator. And I welcome you to another little podcast, live stream, YouTube thingy. And as many of you may know that have watched my channel for a while now, and for those of you newcomers, I thank all of you subscribers. You all mean a lot to me and also your comments. And thank you very much for understanding my crazy ways of thinking sometimes. And so this is a continuation of discussions about the shaman journey, the basics of shamanism. And one of the things that I have been asked to speak about with through angel messages and things, I've kind of been trying to put this off, but it seems to be an important conversation that needs to be had, and that is dealing with death in the realms. Um, I kind of want to, how do I put this? I want to sort of explain myself when I use the term realms versus different dimensions or timelines or something like that. However, I'm referring to realms in using a similar type of understanding in that these could be called dimensions or timelines or something else. But I'm using the word realm in the idea that I want to bring up a different concept of, when we die and where we go and we go into another realm. Now, I've looked up the word realm and I understand um, that the true meaning of it means a realm is basically guarded, or not guarded, that's the wrong word, excuse me, um, governed by a sovereign, meaning a king or a queen or somebody like that. And in the reference that I wish to make is that in another realm or another dimension or another reality, however you would like to put it, that we are governed by, as sovereign beings, you and I would rule, much like, we think our democracy is, which isn't. We're actually supposed to be a republic. And we supposedly, if the system really worked correctly, we would vote in those people into offices for certain lengths of time. And, that's supposed to make us sovereign. However, we are governed and ruled by all these laws and things. So I want you to think of being in another realm where everyone governs themselves. But because everyone governs themselves, there's very little necessity for any other types of rules or regulations, because when you follow that universal law of one, hello, Melanie. Thank you for sharing your wisdom as well, Melanie. Um, but we think of things in terms of, well, somebody's going to rule us or govern us or something like that. And I wish to think of it in terms of, we vote in a mayor of a town, and they keep an eye on things. They make sure that the garbage trucks are running and things are paid, and they're a manager, okay, not a king or a queen or a ruler per se. However, in many of the larger cities, like Chicago and New York and some of these other places, um, back in the day when I lived in Tampa, there was a lot of mafia back in the 50s and 60s and before then. But, there you could tell that as I was growing up in Tampa during the 60s, there was still some mafia stuff going on. And I've seen it, lived on the streets in Tampa and saw some things, and it was just strange anyway. One reason I moved out of there, and one reason why I never moved back into a large city. But to the point though, people with power think that, their stuff don't stink. And if we go into a realm, another dimension, reality, etc., then these other realms should be, and in many cases are, ruled by each other. And when we use that rule of the law of one of do no harm to any to any other being or anything, rocks have feelings, trees have feelings. When we understand these basic concepts that I have discussed in my previous videos, always about the core value. And so when you have these core values, then you understand things on a basic level that a lot of people these days just simply miss. And so that's one of the purposes for these videos. And I do, and I thank you all for participating and hanging out with me. Now, so with that, I'm using realm slightly in the same context, with the exception of being ruled by a sovereign. I'm using realms in that we are governed by sovereign beings. In other words, you and me and the next guy. Now, what about our spirit selves? And what do I mean by that? Well, some people would call it a soul. Some people would say, well, it's our angel self, our higher being, our cosmic energy, however you want to look at it. But there's way too much. Hello, Michelle. Um, Good evening to you as well. There's too much information that says, the body loses weight after death, different varying times when the soul leaves the body. I know that I have witnessed people dying. I worked in a nursing home and I literally saw this person, it was an old woman. And hi, Michelle. And I watched her spirit leave her body and it freaked me right out. This has been many years ago. And one of the nurses there, she was like, oh, well, we see that all the time. And I was like, you see what? Well, we see spirits leaving our patients' bodies when they pass on. And I'm like, so this don't freak you guys out? And they was like, no, we're kind of used to it. And I was like, wow, that's just, I was the maintenance man, and I just went in the room to check on this woman because she never got any visitors or anything. And I would just go in there and talk to her, this one particular day I walked in there, she very rarely moved, but there was something different that day. And I knew something was going on. I mean, I could feel it spiritually. And then I saw this light body come out of her, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Went to the nurse's station, and they were like, "Yeah, we kind of knew that she was on her last leg, and they were not really, they were kind of sort of taking bets how long she was going to last. That's what her condition was, and her system was failing." And but anyway, but to the point though, there's too much information out there that there's something about us that exists after the body dies. So now, if you wish to be a shaman or a prayer person, or if you're a Christian, or Buddhist, or a lot of other different religions, but then you must believe in this higher spirit, this higher self, your angel self, however you wish to quantify it or name it, however you want to put it that way, which is fine because, there are different descriptions in many different countries and nationalities and histories and so forth. So with that said, let's use the basic concept that there is a spiritualness that involves us. And that if we understand that on a shaman's level, on a spiritual level, as Jesus taught and as many other prophets have taught, there is going to the Father, all right, going back to heaven, going above, going up, going somewhere other than here, and that our spirits will leave. All right, so if you're going to deal with death in the different realms, you have to understand that death is nothing more than a transition period. And I have feared death for many years. I did, okay? And I've discussed this before, and I discuss it again in that it was very important for me on my journey to understand. And I've talked in previous videos about the 3 days I spent down on the river when I, shouldn't have lasted two, but I came out of there like, a different person. And I realized that I had walked with the spirits and in so many ways that I was dead because I literally should not have survived those 3 days. So I realized that when I came off the river, even though I'd done many years of, 40 years of meditation up to that point at least, and my spiritual journey and so forth, I was still like, well, I know when I pass on from this life, I'm going to go to the next. But there was a fear in me, oh my God, but I got to leave here. And so you have to overcome it. And it's not an easy task for some of us. And I realize now that part of the reason why I was so anxious about dying was that I realized that I had a death wish early on in my life. I figured I was never going to make it past 40. I'd had this vision, something was going to happen, and it did. But it didn't kill me outright, but it killed the person who I was and changed my life. So, in that respect, it actually did happen by the time I was 40. But it was a different kind of death. And then there was another kind of death that I received about 10 years, 8 to 10 years ago now, to where I had a severe reaction to some pharmaceutical medications that was given to me by a neurologist, and I literally lost my mind. And I'm still on the quest to get my brain back, if you will. And I thank you all for hanging out with me because you guys help. Um, Having conversations like this, I don't have any notes. I kind of took a couple little note here, little notations, if you will, in my little sticky pad here on my forehead that you can't see. But anyway, but I know the subject matter. And so I rely on my spirit. I rely on my higher self to just be able to speak about this in terms so that we can all understand. Okay, moving on. So the death, we have to understand and really get it that, none of us are like, well, maybe some of us are. And I've talked about suicide before too, but many of us are just, no, am I ready to go tomorrow? Well, not really. There are things I'd like to do, but one of the things we must all be prepared for is that we never know when our number is going to be up. Now we can, I used to do some dang foolish things in my lifetime that, driving home drunk at times when I don't even know how I got home. Don't remember getting in my vehicle, and I live 20 miles from town. Wake up at, the next morning in bed going, how did I get here? You know, and then there were times when I didn't make it home where I ran into things or somebody ran into me and I ended up in the hospital. So, but the thing is that it was my behavior that created situations, my being out late, being in places where I could get beat up in a bar brawl, I mean, there were just things that I just shouldn't have been doing those things. Of course, it made for a colorful life, but that's not the point. I could have been killed, you know. But now I understand that do I feel like I'm fully prepared right now? No. Um, quite honestly, I don't feel that I've learned everything in this particular realm. Now, I understand a lot of stuff that other people are still trying to come to grips with. Now, I've stated this before. It doesn't make me better than the next person. We all must be humble in this. And I humbly say, I come on here and do these videos because when you reach a certain point with your spiritual journey, it's time for you to share what you've learned in ways that other people can accept. Now, so dealing with death in other realms, there is death on all different types of dimensions, whether on the third dimension, the fifth dimension, there is death. Now, let's use a different word for the word death. Why don't we replace it with the word transition? Now, you all that hung out with me over the last year or so have seen me and have watched me use these transition videos, in that we need to understand how to transition. So we need to look at death as, oh my God, there's no more of us. That's all. That's it. That's the quote end. It's death. No, we need to refer to it more of a transition. But death because of society and I've had many people that I love and care for, family members, and I've walked many a family member, as a pallbearer to their gravesite and laid them to rest. And I understand death a lot in that respect. Um, there's been some people close to me who were killed that I wasn't able to get to the funeral, which I just, wish that could have happened. But anyway, but with dealing with the death, though, these people that were close to me, I have felt them come by and visit me a day or so after they, quote, left this world. Their physical body has died. And I've sat down and had conversations with some people that I know there are folks out there who go, that's just plumb nuts. But I had a conversation with this friend of mine who passed away, and it was just a wonderful meeting. And you can say, well, did you dream that up? Well, there were things talked about that it's like only this person would have known, and kind of settled things, and like, but I couldn't make it to your funeral, Bob, or whatever. Oh, by the way, hi, Bob. AI Bob. Hi, Bob. Coffee. Let's all have some coffee with Bob. And thank you, Bob. But now thinking more in yes, Michelle. Michelle says a transition and a transmutation. Exactly. And we don't really know what we're going to look like on the other side. I mean, we really don't. And I say this because we're not quite sure which realm we're going to end up in. Now, you could say, okay, what dimension, what, astral plane or whatever. But, I'm a movie buff, and, I love science fiction and so forth. And so different portals are open into different dimensions, but they both exist at the same time. Well, I firmly believe that I have, in the last 6 months, there've just been some dreams and things that were just too damn real. And I've discussed these in previous videos, and I feel like I'm out in the middle of a park, on a blanket having a picnic lunch, and it's just so damn real. I can still taste the ham sandwich, or whatever it resembled a ham sandwich, But with that said, I've had to understand, and I've understood for a long time that there are other dimensions, and that these things operate on a parallel basis. So they're coexisting as you and I are. They're in a different realm of reality. Okay, so that's where the word realm is coming into. So, but when we think of death, are we truly dying? Now, as a shaman, you will understand that we have been here. And I mean, maybe on this planet, but we have been here in this universe many times. And many of us are millions of years old. If we were to learn the record of what we are as a being, and where we have lived and cohabitated in other realms, if we could remember that stuff, oh my God, it would flood us and our brains would explode, because there would be so many realities. I mean, sometimes my brain gets fried just thinking about what's going on in this 3D reality. You know what I'm talking about? So, with that said, though, if we were to somehow become aware of all of our previous lives, in all of our previous realms, even if it was just 50 of them. I mean, in a zillion years, maybe we just floated out in space for a while, and then we, got stuck here on this rock. It's a beautiful rock, by the way. I love planet Earth. Thank you, Mother Earth, very much. Um, but we need to make sure that before if any person who's traveling in the spiritual realm, or trying to understand it, or the shaman journey, you need to understand that death in this 3D reality ain't that's not all there is. There is much more in the universe, and it's hard to describe. And many people who have had near death experiences all say, there's something else beyond this. This isn't all there is. There is something beyond, in another reality, another realm, another dimension, whatever it may be, that we will still exist. So now in my own personal life, my fear of dying was that it felt like I had unfinished business, and I did. And because I'm doing these videos and things, and I have you lovely people to chat with. Rick and Delaney, uh, um, Delaney was born dead. I've been brain dead for quite a few years, but that's another story entirely. But to the point though, my fear, and I bring this up because there are a lot of people who fear death, and I'd be one of them, at least until these last couple of years. I've understood that what difference does it make whether I'm here tomorrow? Does my life affect anybody? And I realized when I started doing these YouTube videos and my Facebook videos that there were folks that like to have listen to me have these conversations. It helps put something to rest in their spirit or makes them at ease or helps them to understand something. Well, anyway, and I think that's most a blessing to me as well as it may be a blessing to you. It is most definitely a blessing to me because where I did think a couple of years ago that there was no hope that for me. I'm like, I'm by myself, nobody's ever come visit me again, I'm alone, I'm on this journey, and but I didn't die physically. I'm still here. I'm a cantankerous old coot, but to the point, it wasn't my time. As many times as I fell over things and broke arms and legs, and well, actually I didn't break an arm. I've broken a couple of other things, so ribs and stuff. But to the point, though, anyway, I've never broken an arm, or but I have broken my leg. But anyway, with that said, though, I had to come to grips with the fear of dying, and it was the fear of, but why am I afraid of it? What is it? Well, but I've had several operations, and they take you right to that edge of death. When I've talked about when one operation, I was literally looking down at the surgeon and watched him do something. And then after, I don't know, it was like the two or three visits later when I come out of all that really good high morphine and shit from the operations, I looked at the doctor and I said, what was this about and he was like, Dave, how did you know that? And I said, because I saw you. And what do you do to my head? And I was asking questions. How did you know that? I saw it from above, looking down at you. And he's like, okay. So, but anyway, I've had so many things in my own personal life that prove that the extension of life extends from our body. So in my own personal life, I was like, but why am I fearing this? If I have lifted out of my body before during operations and, severe concussions and car accidents, not my fault, mind you, but other people. Um, and in that, that I was in this altered state of reality. I realized that I existed in another realm until my brain could function in this reality again, if you will. And I continue to have trouble over the years, but situation has been getting better when I started accepting and receiving the healing from the universe. So I still got work to do. I will be quite honest with you. I know somebody sent me a comment one time like, well, why aren't you like running around? And I'm like, because I'm still healing. If you understood how much damage there was to this poor 3D body of mine, it's taking a while. But the fact is I can see progress in things. So, but dealing with death in other realms. Well, how do you deal with death in another realm? You understand that regardless of the realm you're in, you have a spiritual side of you, that angel self, that shaman core, that core value that doesn't go away. It remains infinitely unless we get, if we get into some really nasty evil stuff, we can get recycled through the sun or the galactic center. We can get regurgitated and back, and come back as different beings. But our essence can be held in an atom. And I just absolutely firmly believe that one atom of me, oh God, wherever it goes after it leaves this realm, holy mackerel, who knows where, wherever this one little atom of my essence might end up. But I have too many memories, as many other people, mind you, and I'm just using myself as the example versus quoting somebody else. But in that we've all had experiences that, like, but they're not of this world. They're not of this reality. It's dreams of things and places that, how did I know this stuff? You've heard me discuss some of the things that I'd like. Somebody told me they saw me on the moon, for example, working on some equipment, and I'd had a similar dream or experience the night or two about that. That I felt like I was standing in front of a bunch of electronic equipments at a control board, and I was calibrating something, but had no idea what it was. But I'm here on this planet, but my altar is somewhere else. Now, what's to say that, the gazillion atoms that could hold be in a soul, okay, or be in that spiritual essence of us when it leaves this body? What's to say that a couple of those atoms aren't shared on a different timeline, or in a different realm, or reality, or dimension, or however you want to look at it? And I'm curiously wondering, like, but wait a minute. So does that mean? And I say we can have a shared reality. In other words, my dream state might actually be one of these other realms if my essence is attached. And it's very possible if one atom is in another me somewhere, not necessarily a clone, but that my essence is in another being, and that of that I can, through the quantum of the universe, while someone else is having, maybe they got two or three atoms of mine, and so that there's more of my essence in this other being, and it's a shared experience. I didn't invade this person. It's because of the universe and what it is. My atoms are being shared in another reality as another me. Ain't that kind of trippy? So, it's like dust on the wind. Do all dust particles, follow the same path? No, one kind of floats off over here and another one. So, higher and lower cells, Michelle, not necessarily, just other cells. And I think it's what we, as that being on whatever realm it may be or dimension, but I wonder sometimes, how can I have such vivid memories of things and have this, the smell of the trees in my nose, and I'm like, okay, I've had some really good dreams and experiences and stuff. I guess this could come back. But it's only been in the last year or two that the experience has left me with smell and taste in my mouth, and like the sound of birds chirping, and wake up and go, wait, my ears are ringing like hell. How can I hear birds chirping? So it's like I'm coexisting in another reality. It's not a higher or lower, it's just different. That's all. It's just a different existence, but that they are happening simultaneously. Now, I don't necessarily mean in a parallel universe. They could be, my essence could literally be in another galaxy far, far away, and be experiencing these things. But they have the only commonality is there might be three or four of my atoms of essence in that other being. It just got shared through all the universe and all this stuff, me leaving this one and going into another one, that things have just transpired in the universe. And at some point, there might have been three or four little atoms that were together that may have made a molecule of my essence, or anyone's essence for that matter, but that they could coexist in another realm simultaneously, not higher, not lower. That's because it wouldn't be the same in that reality. It would be a different realm of reality. But our experiences would be just as real, or, taste, smell, experience, pain, pleasure, whatever. So it's like, now I bring this up to you because it's like, in a shaman's world, all of these things are possible. Now, do they exist? I'm just bringing the topic up for discussion. However, there's a lot of this quantum thing that's been being downloaded into me recently about what's in the universe, not just our solar system, um, or but maybe our galaxy, maybe our Milky Way galaxy, because the entire galaxy would have a particular energy. So each galaxy's got its own stuff around it, if you will, cosmic particles or however. But so if I'm being bombarded by these um, invisible rays, which we are constantly, my last check, by the way, just to say hello to the Schumann residents, it was a little quiet today. Just at least it was an hour ago. But anyway, just to throw that in there. But there are so many things that affect us that are unseen. So what eh, what if, as my spirit body is leaving this 3D body, what if the cosmic energy hits my soul and a couple of atoms get sent out into wherever, out into space, out into the quantum realm? Do I then become a part of the universe? The core value is still there. The core essence of me or you or whoever it is would still be like, stuck together. But with all of the energy and everything of the universe, how easy would it be for a couple of atoms to get stripped off? Like dust off a comet. There's no dust on comets, but that's another story. But anyway, y'all know what my position about that is. That's fraud. But anyway, but think about the soul though as a comet through space. And so we leave this body and we get to, if we can get off of this this prison planet and get through the barrier, which from what I understand it is coming down, and it's not entirely down, but it's mostly down. There's some good positive things in our universe. And, to bring a point out, and I'm not sure, someone made a comment, something about my ETs or something. And I want to make sure that y'all know I do understand there are all kinds of bad ETs out there. When you hear me speak about ET, it's the ETs that I've been in contact with. And you've heard me talk over the years about the entity I met in Ohio. And all the information I've gotten from this being has all been positive, or at least warnings that not necessarily the world was going to flip upside down, but there's earthquakes and there's volcanoes and there's tides and there's storms and there's cold but the message with that has always been just hang on, we'll get through this. So my ET messages, to make positively sure to everyone, has always been to the positive side. Never asked me to do anything that would invalidate the law of one. Just, I want to make that perfectly clear. So, next up is, how do we deal with death? Well, first off, if we understand within our essence that we're not afraid of it, regardless of where we may be, that our essence is going to continue on in this universe. Maybe not anywhere. I might end up being part of a plant. Now, somebody said, well, what are you being reincarnated as a rock? Well, maybe I ran around too much and didn't sit still. So in my next life as a shaman, I have to live part of it as a rock where I can't move. I have to sit and listen to the universe. And you say, well, what do you mean become a rock? Well, what if a couple of atoms of me end up in some kind of cosmic something and I become part of a rock somewhere in the universe? Now, maybe not all of my essence has been reincarnated, but a sprinkle, of atoms from my essence could very well end up in a star somewhere or on another planet or in a totally different existence. So I'm like, well, why can't this why can't this happen? Versus, well, I don't think it can. Because I'm always of the, somebody shows me a problem, I always say, now how do we figure this out? How do we make this work? We might have to completely shelf everything on the drawing and start all over again. But if we're trying to achieve a particular thing, sometimes you just got to throw the first design away and go with the next one. But whatever it is, I'm speaking of as myself being an engineer for 30 years. But with that said, sometimes you just make a modification and it's like works like a charm. Sometimes you change materials, works like a charm. But whatever it may be, it's that what has happened is that you've just changed things slightly. So, what if there's six of our molecules instead of two atoms that have attached itself to another thing? And couldn't we share that reality out in the quantum? Well, there's information that gets shared. I mean, I get psychic impressions from people all the time. I quit trying to keep up with it because it happens all the time. A friend of mine wants to talk to me about something, and I think of it, and then it pops up in the chat room, and I was like, I was just gonna say that. Quartz. I think you did it to me. Hi, Quartz. By the way, Rick and Delady, Amazing Grace. Flesh is weak, spirit is strength. Absolutely. And one of the things that bringing that up, Amazing Grace, and blessings to you as well, is that, we get our spirit gets stuck in this flesh and becomes a part of the flesh, if you will. And so when we leave this body, we can leave residual traces behind simply because there might be a couple of atoms that just get stuck, not necessarily stuck like, oh, no, it's a couple of flecks of dust that just don't go with the group. It's whatever it is. But to the point, though, it's not that it's stuck by some evil, malevolent, voodoo, hoodoo kind of stuff. No, it's left behind because it's just a residual of us. Now, I believe, because I've studied ghosts and I've seen ghosts, and I've had this discussion before, I think that there are some people who are so attached to this place, and I'm probably, because of my house and how long I've lived here, I'm probably going to haunt this place simply because I've been here for so long. My essence has been absorbed into the house, quite frankly. Not to necessarily haunt the place, but that my essence is in the house. I mean, I've built most of the house with help from friends, but I've bled, sweat. I personally am in this house, if you will. I got skin, I got blood, I got brain matter, anyway, there's, other, never mind. But to the point, there is enough of my atoms left in this house here that, of course, there's going to be some of me left behind. Now, I don't plan on haunting the place, if you get my drift, but is my energy and essence going to be left in this house? Well, yeah, duh. Even if I'd only lived here a year, depending on the type of person I was, I could leave a mark after only being, in a house or an apartment or whatever for just a year, for example. How much do we leave behind? Well, if we are true spiritual beings, then I think our soul's going to stay as an intact thing, if you will. Now, does that mean that an atom or two might, come flying off? In the theoretical world, I think it's more plausible that an atom or two would get brushed off of our soul, if you will, just because of the state of matter, but not necessarily in some kind of, nasty, evil, oh my God, there's part of me left behind. And no, because then if especially if my essence is good before I leave this realm, that energy that I leave behind should sprout more good energy. At least that's my hope. And that the energy that I create, I am a seed, I'm fertilizer for this discussion so that we can all blossom into the universe, And so that, when our pollen is sowed into the universe and around Mother Earth, that, we get to fly out between the planets, and we might, who knows, we might wander between planets or galaxies for an eon or two. That's not my point. My point to this is that as a shaman, you must understand these different realities. and that regardless of the realm or reality or dimension, we never die. You gotta understand that basic part. Yes, it's painful in this life. Yes, we cling to it. There are some days I'm fighting like hell just to stay, I mean, just to stay alive, just to breathe. Come on, Hawkeye, we can do it. Today's not the day kind of thing. But to the point, though, it's like, it's only a struggle unless I make it a struggle. Now, there are entities and things who've been kind of whipping my ass here recently, and I realize it, and I'm having this discussion because of certain things that happened recently, and that are trying to whoop my ass and make me lose hope. And I'm like, no, sorry, guys, y'all ain't making me lose hope. Well, but we made you go to sleep for 2 days. So what? I'm still here. I got up. I'm okay. I'm 66 and a half now. I'm still heading. I'm still intend to get better. I'm not giving up. So in that respect, where it felt like a day or two ago that parts of my soul seemed fragmented. It's hard for me to describe right now, but it's almost like something blew through me and blew some of my atoms of my soul off of me. Not necessarily in a negative way, but in that I kind of feel scattered. And so I've been sitting on this for the last couple of days to try to figure out what this discussion should be about. Okay, well, y'all know I'm scatterbrained, but with that said, though, but I felt like I was scattered in the universe, and so in having these different realities, today was that I get these zip files downloaded in my head, and things get revealed to me over a couple of days or something. And so I've been mulling on this for a couple of days. It may be a week now. I'm not quite sure. But so that we need to first conquer the fear of death, because regardless of whether or not we fear it, it's still going to happen. However, what's important to understand for all of us, and one could look at the Christ figure as as an example, but that what we need to understand is that our fear of dying or the transition is what can keep us here. That's what the angels are telling me right now. The more we fear leaving ourselves behind, if you will, because our consciousness, when we pass on, is going to be embedded in our core spirit, in our soul, if you will. Okay. So if the last things that get put into our soul is fear, well, that's not good. I mean, it's the loosh factor. It's the, being drawn to the devil side. It's not that we are, but it's that it implants in us a negative vibration near, closer, on the point of death. I don't want to die. Oh, oh, oh. Then that spirit's going to have some trouble. You know what I'm saying? And it has taken me, 60 years. Well, my grandfather died around the time of John F. Kennedy, about 1963, because I remember it was the same year. But anyway, and when I saw my grandfather, and I was 11 at the time, because I was born in 52, and that was also the time that I had the Mother Mary messages sent to me, and the vision. So a lot happened at 11 for me anyway. But with that said, though, I saw death, and it scared the out of me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I had nightmares of my grandfather chasing me around in the coffin. I mean, it was horrendous for a while. But um, so there was this fear of death in a lot of different ways. Well, then I've had, mother, father, aunts, uncles, close friends pass away over the years. And so my not my vision of death, but my uh, understanding of death has changed because of seeing death and watching it, and seeing the spirit leave some people, and being with my grandmother and watching her speak to the angels while I was sitting beside her bed a day or two before she passed. I mean, these things are really, really, really intense when you experience them, in with the person who's passing on. So, what does this mean? Well, the people that I know that have like come back around to visit were the people who were content with the fact that their death, it was like, it's time. There's no sense in, don't cry, don't squalor. It's just time. And yeah, it might, I don't really want to leave this world either, but it's just my time and I understand it. And so therefore I'm trying to pass this on to you that, you know, my pops was in a coma for almost 3 months and he woke up for several days just to say goodbye to everybody. And then we unplugged him the day after Thanksgiving back in 99. And so, but I saw him above himself and an angel on either side. And I was like, oh my God, he's not in this tormented body anymore. And all the people standing around the bed were like, what are you talking about? Oh, shush. And I was like, Arnie's sitting right there. He ain't in this body, y'all. He's already left. He's just waiting for us to unplug his 3D self. And they thought I was being rude. And I was like, no, this is a good thing. Arnie's already left his body. He's sitting right there with two angels, and they're sitting there. He waited on us to come in and have prayer before he left the building, if you will. And so, did it make it any better that, I saw that? No, I still miss my pop. His picture's on the wall back over there. And I say thank you every single day that I'm awake enough to say thank you because these pictures right there. But I'm always saying thank you, Pops, and sending energy beyond, because if he hadn't adopted me and done what he did, Lord knows what I'd have turned out to be. But with that said, um, I understand that he came back out of a coma. He came back from death to tell us all it's okay, and for us to just maintain it, it's okay. Wow, interesting. Now we've seen movies of things like that where people get better for a day or two and then they're gone. That's their last bid. They get a chance from heaven, from the other side. They get a juice from the cosmos to bring this 3D body alive enough to be able to do a couple of things, be around for a couple of days. And then it's like, okay, you got 2 extra days on your time card or, your ticket, but, the bus stops there, time to get off. And I don't mean that with any disrespect. I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. Because when the bus comes for me, I'm going to know it's for me. And I've had the lights in the other room, and and I realize that I'm still here. I had a choice back then, but I realized it wasn't my fear of death that kept me from wanting to go. It was the fact that in my own heart and soul, I realized that my journey wasn't over on this planet, and that my message hadn't even been heard yet. I was being killed and erased from reality before I had a chance to give the merry messages to you all and have this conversation. So, in order to be a good shaman, we must understand that death ain't death. That's the biggie, you know. Death is the transition. And the word death, it just, it just, even if you say, well, what death is a transition, simply by using the word death, it's like, oh my God, it sends chills up and down my spine. Death. Oh, the death of religion, the death of society, the death of, the death. Oh, it's the ending. There's nothing beyond it. It is the death of. And we need to rearrange the word. Or at least understand that death don't mean the end. We gotta, and I'm sure all of you get this, but I'm speaking to any others who may watch this and not participate in the chat. And if I read the chat, I'm going to lose my focus, y'all. So I'll catch up with you here in a minute. I love you all, I do. And hello, Pamela. I noticed you jumped in here. Blessings to you as always. And continued prayers sent your way, all of y'all actually. But With that said, though, um, when we speak with other people about, quote, the death of things, um, um, how do we wait? Let me back up a sec. Drink a coffee and collect a thought. In my bid to try to lens, I don't want to just talk about bad things. So no, oh, death. And no, 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 no. See, I'm saying that death is actually life in another realm or something. That death is, that's the wrong word. But with that said, though, in that my message is that there is more to this universe. And as a shaman, as you open up your awareness of, as I've talked about with astral projection and meditation, and just allowing yourself, what if did whatever I just discussed within the last 50 minutes, is any of that shit possible? And I say, if you say, nah, then you can't be a shaman because you're already closing off your brain to infinite possibilities. So you say, nah, that can't happen. That's impossible. If you start making excuses, then your shaman journey is over before it started, because you must be aware enough that something could possibly happen. It's not that it does or will or could, it's that it's possible. That's all. It doesn't mean that you have to believe that there's another realm with that's not the point. The point is that it's possible. It is possible. It could be. Now, do I have proof? Well, I've talked about it in the dreams and states and so forth and other things, and walking in the dream world kind of thing. And it's interesting here lately, walking in the dream world. There's all kinds of different stuff out there. And I want to continue to ask you all to make sure you say, if you're going to go out there traveling in the astral, you stick close to home, stick with what you know, please. That the higher beings continuously ask me to make sure that you all know that, and we'll pass it along to your friends, folks who want to go channeling off into other directions. Warn them this is not the time. And if they're new to it, that really isn't the time. Let them refer them to one of my earlier videos, if you must, about how we can meditate and learn how to do the, walk in the astral plane. But anyway, that's, until later. Because with all these changes going on right now, it's confusing. We may want to contact another individual or something. And actually, we're maybe just talking to a higher point of us, or maybe it's an atom of our essence in another life form, or maybe an atom of each one of us. Of course, after a while, we'd kind of lose a few, but um, I think that the more good we do, that our light increases. So, with that said, I think that we all come into this lifetime with, let's say it's a softball or a baseball sized spirit. Okay. But if we do bad things, we could end up with a ping pong ball at the end of our life. Or we could end up with a softball or a grapefruit or a watermelon or a cantaloupe, you know what I'm saying? In size. Okay. And so I firmly believe that we're on this planet and we all have a basic, you know, core source of each one of us. But that what if, so that if when we leave, we obviously will leave a little bit of trace in our bodies, but not our core. But so what if, you know, there's more of us that comes out than actually came in, meaning soul? It could be 20 molecules. That's not my point as to what the volume is, but I was given softball, baseball as a reference, just in a, picture this. But so I wonder and have wondered. So, in watching different movies and things and studying my own meditation and books and stuff, if you do good things and you feel great about what you did when you do service to others without any expectation of coming back. That's one thing I've gotten from you all. I do this without asking for money or anything like that. I do it with my free will. But the thing is that your prayers have come back to me in ways that I just never thought possible. It's just, you send me a smile, somebody sends me a comment, you write something in the chat room, you participate with the subject, and that humbles me. But at the same time, it helps my light to grow because I'm sharing mine. So in trying to fertilize, so you know yes, I'm using fertilizer. I'm trying to fertilize all of our brains so that our spirit will grow. But so what, so we have these really big hearts and souls that, and what's to say that we just, well, if can we become a light being in the fourth dimension? Now, I'm talking about the true fourth dimension, that we're going to be more light based and we're going to, but a lot of us, we're not quite sure what that means. But what if we just start glowing from the inside out because of our true spirit? Now, I can imagine kind of sort of in my brain a light being, whether it's crystal or glass, or I'm not even going to go there. But I can see light beings in my thoughts, in my vision, if you will. I mean, just in reality out there. I mean, I don't have to like try to ask it to come in. I just see these light beings like angels, if you will. And so, with that said, though, so the more each of us deals with death, in other words, understanding that it's a transition, even though this 3D crap stays here, you know, um, we're going to transform into something else. Now, I'm still waiting, as most of us are. What does that look like? Now, I know a lot of us have had visions of what these we as fourth or fifth or sixth dimensional beings are. And I want to throw this caveat into you all. Since we are of the third dimension, we can't even begin to comprehend what the fourth is. Just want to throw that in there. When we get into the fourth, we're going to go, oh shit. Oh my God. I never imagined, because we're going to be in a different realm, a different dimensional attitude, a different understanding of things. So we in our puny little 3D minds are trying to envision what this other reality is. And until we experience it, what does ice feel like? It's cold, and you can tell somebody is cold, but until you feel a chunk of ice melting in your hand, you don't really know what ice is until you're stuck in the freezing cold in the wintertime and you have ice nostril sickles kind of thing, and your beard's frozen over with stuff. You don't understand what cold is. I grew up in Florida where cold was 60 degrees, and we turned on the heater in the furnace and everybody bundled up with blankets. I'm sitting here now, the house is like 55 degrees. I don't have a heater on and I'm comfortable. But anyway, different realities and different things. But my point to this is that so many folks are trying to, well, it's going to be like this. And I'm just being nice to y'all. We're not going to know till we get there. We can imagine, we can think about it. And I'm not saying we shouldn't give up on what's it going to be like, because that gives us hope. What I'm saying is that you can watch a bowling alley on TV. You can see people in there and they're rolling strikes and gutter balls. But until you go in a bowling alley with all the smelly socks and during a league or something where three-quarters of the bowling alleys got people with different shirts on drinking beer and, depending on the place, smoking cigarettes. It was in the old days anyway. You wouldn't know what a bowling alley really was. I mean, you got to get there. You got to feel the ambiance of it, if you will. Um, Maybe that was a bowling alley, but still, I mean, if somebody's never been to a bowling alley, you can go, "What's this? Oh my God, there's all this stuff going on, and these pins, and how are they working? And they're going up and down by themselves, and anybody back there, and I mean, just stuff. But anyway, I think about this. My parents were in bowling leagues when I was a kid, and all the machinery fascinated me. It still does. I would still love to know how a pin machine works, but anyway, another story. But anyway. But to the point though, but unless you have been there or somehow, but if we've all been trapped in this 3D body, how can we express it? We can make a hypothesis. We can, cogitate on it, which what I'm doing right now. But to the point though, none of us will really get it until we get there. And that's not a bad thing. It's just that, hang on, gang. I think it's going to be flipping great, is my 10 cents worth on that. But so how do we deal with death in another realm? All right, well, think about this. And I'm going to read your comments here in a minute. I'm trying to stay on topic here. The angels have got me a message they want me to finish up. So bear with me, y'all. I love you. And seeing just that was enough to. We need to understand in our core value what death is, and that death is nothing more but a transition. The transition. So if we understand it inside our core value, if we get it there, instill it, solder that puppy in there, and make sure it don't leak out or whatever it is, think of a container. Um, but that if we understand and keep it in our core value, regardless of where our essence goes or travels or experiences, we will not fear death. We will understand in another realm because our core essence will understand it. So the more we focus on transition, I ain't dying. I'm sorry. I mean, I plan on living on this planet for quite a few more years. I'm supposed to be a gardener and be here after a lot of other folks transition off. At least that's what I was told years ago, and it seems to be running true. But anyway, to the point though, other folks are going to move on. I'm a caretaker for Mother Earth. I promised this years ago as part of my study to be a shaman and my Native American. I'm here to protect Mother Earth, and to help it grow and to nurture and so forth like that. So, but until a couple of years ago, my brains got scrambled. There was so much about death that I feared. And that's the important thing about this now. And so many of us, and fear was a big part of my life, y'all. I just got to say, I mean, fear about this, fear about that. I mean, it was, am I going to make it to the doctor on time? Am I going to pay the phone bill? I mean, fear, 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 because they had wiped my mind and wiped the ability out of me. And so, fear took over my essence for a while. And that's why I had to go down on the river and die for 3 days, because I had to get that fear out of me that, hang on, dude, even when you die, you're not dead. Like, oh, well, I thought I understood all this. I've been meditating on this. I've been discussing it for years, but I didn't believe it that 100.1% you hear me talking about. I was still scared of the unknown. And so the spirits had to take me on a 3-day walk to show me that there was nothing to fear. The fear was in this reality. The fear was, but wait a minute, what am I leaving behind? Well, I know there are people who will miss me when I leave this planet, but if you understand who I am in the spiritual sense, that you'll know I ain't never leaving. I'm going to be here for a while, you know. And whether I'm on this planet or in this realm or in another dimension on a different planet, I will exist beyond this 3D body. And I got it. And it took the fear out of me. It took, I mean, the calmness that washed over me. And I went, oh my God, all this time. I said I wasn't scared. I said I understood. I spouted off all the other things about death and oh, we do, but I didn't frickin' believe it in my own soul. When I did, my own transition took over. My own transformation took place. Because no, I don't want to die tomorrow or later on today, as a matter of fact, but that's not the point. The reason I would feel bad about leaving now is that I feel that I may have things left undone, in that there are more things I need to talk about. There are other people that need to hear this message. There are other people I need to, teach about spirituality. I'm not sure. But I've all the things that I fear now, and I'm being told, but I've got it covered, in that regardless, until YouTube goes down or the Facebook goes down, the many videos that I've done on these particular subjects is a legacy that I've left for other people to follow if they so choose, to help them on this journey. And that's what I'm here for, to be a warrior for the Creator, to continue to protect Mother Earth, to continue to help try to protect other people, to help try to bring a different type of awareness and so forth. And I'm repeating myself like a damn preacher. Sorry. But I'm saying this out loud, in that this is, this is my mantra. This is why I'm here, especially now. But so with this death idea, wow, there's something really sparkly going on back here, and there is nothing back there, y'all. Ooh, interesting. I feel high. A lot of energies coming through. Now, one of the things that since I got y'all's attention, I want to do a different video on this and discuss it more in depth, but I want to bring it up to y'all in that one of the things in this fourth dimension is we'd make this transition, and I've talked about it, the lifting of the veil. We're going to start seeing spirits and things, and ET, and we're going to start seeing stuff. Well, one of the things that is going to slow us down is fear. Now, we need to be able to allow ourselves to go, well, you know what? That ugly looking bug critter over there isn't trying to eat me. But the humanoid one is trying to eat me. Just saying. So we have to stop our fear of the unknown, if you will, and just, it's unknown. I don't know what it is. A UFO, an unidentified flying object. Oh, by the way, which showed up again last night for about an hour and a half in my southern skies. Just saying. That ET was back last night. It was early too. It was gone by 1 o'clock in the morning, when normally it doesn't show up until about 1. But anyway, I digress with that. But speaking about ET and things, in that, always put a protection around you. And basically, you say any negative energy that tries to enter my aura will be rebounded, will be rejected, or anyway, bounced off. I'm thinking repulsed, or anyway. So always set yourself up with, I am protected. No nasties can get to me. I wish to allow any ET beings who would like my starseed family, especially, and me being Palladian, I'm getting them kind of vibes. Um, but and that goes back to me being 11 years old with the Palladians. Before I ever knew what they were, I knew I was from there. But with that said, just, if you've had a strong inkling of something, it's not that you're asking them to enter you. You're saying, any good entities out there who wish to communicate with me, and you always say good energies, good entities, the nice guys, and you're going to know if they come into your brain, and they will always ask ahead of time. They will say, I got, when I was doing the pictures about the blue spheres in Ohio kind of thing, that video I did, the entity said, hello, can I speak with you? What the hell? Is it all right if I communicate with you? I guess so. So it wasn't like I'm Darth Vader and you're going to listen to me and put me into a mind. No, it was very cordial and very nice. I knew that there were entities around because of the person who was with me saw a few of these entities. So I already knew they were there, but to the point that I'd never had one chat with me before. So, but the thing is that I understood and they understood that I was there with the protection. I had my crystals, which I'm always got my medicine bag with me. And so I've got my protection. I've got my little sorcerer's stone around my neck, if you will. And so, and I carry my protection with me. So, they're going to have one hell of a battle to get at my ass. But with that said, though, they were cordial. It wasn't some kind of forcible thing. And I was like, I guess so. Sure. What you got? Well, how would you like to take a picture of us, Hawkeye? What? Here, set your camera to this. Well, you may have heard the rest of the story, but I didn't want to go back into that. But to the point, though, it was very cordial. It was very warm and fuzzy. There wasn't any kind of nasty, oh, we want. No, here, I want to show you proof that we exist. Okay. So when I say that ET or these other higher spirit beings or whatever have been in contact with me, absolutely none of them have ever asked me to do anything close to breaking the rule of one law of doing harm to anything. Never. Even if anything, there were times when I really wanted to punch somebody in the face. They stepped in and said, Hawkeye, you're better than that. What? Yeah. Take a step back, Hawkeye. We are your guardian spirits, and we ain't going to let you make a damn fool of yourself again. Hothead, sit down. Think about this a second. So, they have if I could say, well, has the spirits or ET ever stepped in on my behalf? Yeah, to keep me from doing something freaking stupid and also to show me things when I pay attention. I did a video earlier yesterday, I guess, or the day before. I'm a little fuzzy on time here, but about your perception, your awareness of things around you. And so when you look up in the sky, are you just looking at stars, or do you understand there are trillions of beings out there, just in one little corner of the universe out there? I mean, there's a 3 trillion of us on this planet, for goodness sake. So, or however many there are, but anyway. Um, or it's billion. I'm sorry, I added a zero. But to the point, though, we need to understand that death is really what we make it. If we choose to die, if we choose that, well, my essence ain't going anywhere. I'm dead. I don't want to go on. I don't want to be reincarnated. I don't want my essence to go floating off in the universe. Well, I think that there are sometimes that um, um, no matter what you do, there's still going to be some of your essence left. And so I would choose that, if I was a little kid and I started out with a ping pong ball size spirit, I would hope that, like through the Bible, there are the master, he gives one of his servants 3 talents or 5, and another one 3, another one 1. And then he comes back and they go, what did you do? Well, I took 5 and made 10. Well, I took 3 and made 6. And the other one said, well, you only gave me 1, so I buried it so I could give it back to you. And that person was banished from the kingdom, kind of thing. So it's like, so that would be like, well, so, Creator gives us a soul. What are we going to do with it while we're on this planet? We have free will, and the free will is to whether or not we wish to sit in fear about death all the time, or whether or not we're going to overcome the fear of death, be the best damn person that we can possibly be, increase our soul's potential, so that when we do leave off of this planet, barring the net around Mother Earth, but that when we leave, our essence is intact as a good, viable thing, versus a little ping pong ball of dirty energy. I really don't want to go out that way. And I know there are some people, I don't give a shit. Man, what do I care? So my, I don't. So my soul's the size of a ping pong, and it's dirty. What, I'm just gonna die. With that attitude, you just might die. But I would rather do the opposite. I would rather say, I'm when I leave this raggedy old ass body of mine, I'm going to go out there and party. Oh, whatever it is, and I'm going to take as much of my own essence with me because I want to share it with the group, kind of thing. It's like smoke if you got them, kind of deal. But anyway, what we need to understand is, and I'll go back over this, and then I'm going to read y'all's post is there in the chat. The things that we fear keep our energies from being in the light more. It for every time we have, and I mean tiny fears. It does not just about fear of death, but fear itself. What we have here is fear itself. No, we need to conquer it. But the fear of death is one of those things that looms in us greater than all the rest, if you will. So, but if we can conquer the fear of the fact that we're going to transition, not die, then that changes our perspective on the rest of what fear is. You go, wait a minute, um, why am I scared of that? How come I've got fear of what tomorrow's going to bring or not going to bring? I see some folks, and I talked about this before, but I'll bring it up again here, and that there's more fear porn going back around. It's the end of the world again. Oh my god, the thing is, it's the end of the world again. And it's like, but didn't you guys just do this 3 months ago? And now you're like, oh man, it's the third temple again. It's the rabbi what's his name. It's the winter. We've always had cold winters. Go back to the winter of 44 in Europe, where all those men died freezing during the Battle of the Bulge. We've had horrific winters and droughts. I've discussed it. What about the Dust Bowl in the 30s and 40s? That cleaned out Oklahoma and parts of Texas, Kansas, and all that. Cleaned folks out. And so, but that wasn't apocalyptic. People back then, literally in a couple of days, saw their entire farm get covered over with dirt. To watch your home disappear under the sand, kind of thing? What? And those kinds of things happened back then. But the world didn't come to an end. Oh, but it was apocalyptic to them poor folk. You bet your ass. When Krakatoa went off the first time back in the 1800s, when the New Madrid went off in 18 whatever it was, the church bells rang in Boston. What? That's a long way from Missouri, you know what I'm saying? But did the world come to an end? No. Well, the Mississippi River changed course and it went upstream for a while. There were tidal waves during the Krakatoa thing. There were, things happen on Mother Earth because we live here. And so, but the fear of whether or not, no, just be prepared. If you understand, my soul is prepared. If God drops an asteroid on my head tonight when I go out here to check the stars, I'm going to be ready. That's the trick. Regardless of what happens to us, regardless of the realm or the dimension, it doesn't matter. Because if we have our soul ready, regardless of the realm or the world, we're still going to exist. It ain't over till it's over. So the shaman basics are just that. Now, sometimes I will bring this up that in my journey with some of the shamans, they gave me some magic mushrooms. One time I had some peyote. Oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, I still remember it kind of, oh my God. Whoa, that was intense. But, with magic mushrooms and being on a shaman journey, is that, Do you see the molecules of your soul, Hawkeye? What? Do you see the tiny specks of your soul? I don't know. I never looked. Well, then look. You want me to look at the specks on my soul? You want me to see what my soul is made out of? Well, yeah, you're really screwed up. You're on magic mushrooms. And the best way to bring you into this, take a look at your own soul. Take a look at it on a graph. Picture it however you want to, a little cloud, a little puff of dust, however you want to envision it, Hawkeye. What do you see? And I saw these little little fairies or particles of golden light kind of thing, kind of buzzing and moving. And of course I was on mushrooms, but to the point though, it was like, I see this thing as this thing with it's alive, it's moving, it's morphing, it's reverberating, but I can see through it, but it's got, there's denseness. And it was like, focus on one part of that light, just of all those little specks. Now take yourself into your soul and focus on just one of those points of light. And what do you see there? And I was like, well, first I had to get away from all the swimming of all this, the motion and the pulsating, if you will, of these energies. And so, and that's part of the training is that as you're being guided into this, that they're there to help you, to say, all right, now, is it, morphing in it? Well, I can't think of the word right now. Pulsating is closest. But is it pulsating now? Yeah. All right. Well, then, and I was looking at the whole thing because it was beautiful. And he was like, well, now just look at the bottom of it, or just look at the side of it, or, so I picked a portion of the whole. And then as I did that, he was like, okay, now focus in smaller. So in other words, take half of it, then quarter it, and then, so you cut it up, and so that your vision gets smaller and smaller, so that you don't see, the whole picture is there. But you also know that every single one of those little bebops of golden light, because that's what I saw, was part of the whole of the essence of me. But when I focused on the one, I was like, but there was an entire lifetime in one of those sparks of energy. Entire lifetimes. I mean, like, so from my spirit guide, my shaman man, was kind of interesting. So it was like, so Hawkeye, now what do you think about your spirit? Hawkeye? Yeah, I was on mushrooms, but it didn't have the mushrooms that had my eyes this big around and wide. It was oh my gosh. Had you not brought me down to the cellular level with this, I would have still been looking at the whole, which is okay, mind you. But as a shaman, you must train yourself for all possibilities. And one of them is of the smallest of things, and those things which you can't actually see, meaning in a higher plane or other dimension or realm. And so my spirit guide, my trip guide, if you will, was like, you understand the whole, but each individual golden light is a whole unto itself. Oh, wow. Wait, huh? Yeah, right. So here, I'm still, I hate to, use this. If I lose an arm, I'm still me. I just only have one arm. Um, but it's not the same in essence. It's like there's just a minute part that travels off, but it within that, it's sort of like in a cell. A cell, once it starts dividing and so forth, can turn into a baby. or a human being or a frog or whatever. And it starts out with, one cell doing this morphing thing. It's what nature does. It's what happens in the universe. So to think that if when we get, reduced, if you will, to our pure essence, that just disappears, that it just dissipates in the universe. I think it would dissipate if you just flat out didn't give a shit. I mean, if they ain't nothing coming off of this because you don't care, you know. But for someone who dies or makes the transition on, like with my granny, she literally was, in my eyes, she was glowing. Literally, she was glowing before the 2 or 3 days before she passed. And I just knew this lady's going to heaven, and screw all those ministers who said she was going to hell. But so there is so much more to this. But what keeps us from truly understanding how important it is for each one of us to understand that we are of this essence, and there are all these little particles, but all these particles make up the whole. And the glue that holds them together is our faith and our intent. So if you don't believe, you could just off into the universe. I choose to believe. You know what I'm saying? I choose to say my entity, my energy, my essence, I'm going to leave a little bit back. I can't help it. I've been in this place for too long. There's going to be a residual of me left here. But I don't wish to stay here after this body dies, unless it's part of my soul contract. And I'm cool with it. There were times like, oh crap, I don't want to stay here. Yeah, but you won't be a ghost. You're going to be a higher being. Oh, okay, then I'll stay. That means I get to go in and out of rocks. I get to go visit, whoa, to be on the planet, but be with the planet, to be like a water nymph or something like that, to be a forest being, to be one of those creatures one of those, spirit beings that picked me up off of the river and walked with me, to be one of them, to graduate. Oh my God. Oh my God. Jonathan Livingston Seagull all over again, if you will. And if you haven't read that small book, and I think it's by Herman Hesse, it's a very interesting read. And I read it years ago, but it's a quick read, it's a fun read, and if you understand about moving on and transitioning into higher realms, Jonathan Livingston Seagull is, I don't know, 120 pages of mirth and understanding, but some great wisdom in that tome, if you will. Now let's see. I'm asking spirits if there's anything else they wanted me to cover before I read the chat. Basically, just understand that the fear is holding a lot of us back in a lot of different ways, And so when we give in to our faith of, regardless of whether or not I have a flat tire, to worry about the flat tire is not doing me a damn bit of good. To say to the universe, I got a bad tire, but Spirit's going to get me back and forth until I can get a new one. Rather than, oh my God, I got a bad tire. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I'm going to die. And everything's, So all that fear and everything just brings our light down. It's really like, anyway, not good for our spirits. And it's not good for the people around us either, because when we constantly live in fear, we're anxious all the time, our vibrations are lower, stuff happens around that. So, angel message is basically, y'all are doing a good job. Keep up the good work. My angel message from me to you all is that, yes, we are damn sure making a difference. It's a little slower than what was promised, but we got some dunderhead, meathead mofos on this planet that just like absolutely, it's going to take more than a 2x4 to get their damned attention. I'm just saying. But the more of us who stay within our light and don't give in, I know for some reason yesterday or the other day, there was this, I had this foreboding feeling, and I was like, no, you ain't going to do this to me. No idea what it was. I mean, I woke up at one time and I was crying from a dream. And I was like, what the hell am I crying about? What is going on in the universe that this stuff um, does, what the hell's going on? And they put me back to sleep for about 18 hours and woke me up and said, okay, sit down here, let this zip file unload. There are people out there now who, recently when they reset or when they said it's 2 seconds or 2 minutes to midnight, that Ocasio Cortez crazy lady, I'm sorry, but she just says some crazy stuff. I mean, I'm all glad the new folks are trying to get in, but some of this stuff she's spouting just, I worry about it. And I'm an old hippie, what? Anyway, so, but with that said, though, if we constantly live in fear of everything, our light will never shine to its fullest potential. And these crazy bastards are trying their damnedest here in this end game to try to scare the crap out of us one more time, and they're ratcheting it up. So I warn you all, always pay attention, always be prepared, but please don't get involved in the chaos. This is a really strong message coming in right now. Y'all don't get involved in the chaos. I've said this before, but I'm repeating them. Please watch out for the chaos. Keep an eye on it, but keep your emotions to yourself about it. Stay strong in your own self because that's how we win this. And we are winning. More people are they're staying out of the chaos. They're realizing that I guess they're realizing their true spiritual self. I guess that's it. It's the awareness is that it's not just the awareness of, oh my God, I'm fear of dying or this and that, but it's the point that people are becoming aware that there are other realities. We have a free will. We should use it. We do a lot of the times, but when you realize that when you become woke, and stay awake. I see you there. Blessings to you. Um, is that people who were on the borderline, sitting on the fence of, religion versus spirituality, blah, 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 versus blah, blah, blah. But they're understanding a reality. It's filling them up and they don't have a choice. And it's doing something to each person in their own different way because we're all made up differently. We all have different soul missions and so forth. But understand this, we still have a free choice. And dying, well, I don't know. I'm just going to keep drinking out of plastic. Well, I don't know. I'm too old to change my ways now. Well, it's just too damn convenient. If you keep making up the excuses, then how are you going to do the really hard work when it comes into making this transition into fourth and then into fifth and then gradually into sixth? It's going to take us a while to get there. But for folks to think that, well, you know, if you think you're going to be a fast runner without practicing, if you think you're going to run the quarter mile in 55 seconds, you better damn sure get out there and practice. Now, I made my fastest quarter mile was about 54 seconds as a freshman in high school. And I realized that, you can't just go out there and run that fast. You've got to practice. You want to run a quick quarter mile, then you better learn how to be a sprinter. You got to build up your legs, got to build up your breathing. You got to build up your concentration. You got to build up your stamina. We want to go into the fourth dimension. We're going to go into the fourth dimension in freaking wheelchairs. Going, I don't know. And these are the young kids. I don't know. I can't do it. What am I going to do? Come on, I was in a wheelchair 5 years ago and I said, no. and got out of the damn thing. Now, I can run across the yard now where 5 years ago I couldn't stand by myself. I've got a cane that's sitting over here that I keep beside the chair just to remind me I don't need the damn thing anymore. I said no. I'm getting better. I'm getting out of this freaking chair. So I'm going to go into the fourth dimension. But if you think I'm going to go in a wheelchair and go, I don't know if I can make it. Anybody can push me. Ain't going there. Ain't going there because I got a choice. You all have a choice. We have a choice. Let's share it. I know y'all are doing it. And I think y'all are doing great. I do. We've all got a slightly different twist on this, and that's okay. But we all have a core value, and that's the finest thing on this planet right now. So many people that have got their core value. Yeah, I slipped a little bit the other day. I was boohooing about something, don't know what it was. But to the point was, I realized whatever's in the universe that is making me weep, I'm rather than it depress me, which it used to do. I don't know why I'm crying. Oh. And then the whole day, sometimes a week would be shot because I cried for 5 minutes, about something I wasn't sure of, something on the quantum level out there. I sadness in the universe I picked up. But, but I choose now to go, time's up. Whatever that was that's weeping, I'm going to replace the weeping with a smile and with a positive energy and with a something. I don't know what made me weep that way. It was something really serious. So I sent back, instead of weeping, I sent back prayers of love. And I was over it in 10, 15 minutes. Little residual 30 minutes later, but to the point, instead of being depressed for the day, I was out of it in 30 minutes. I was still on my mind. I wonder what that was, but I wasn't involved emotionally in the chaos of whatever made me cry to begin with. I stayed out of it. I said, whatever you are, I see you over there. But and I shed a tear because apparently it was necessary. But I now have my faculties and I now choose to do differently. I choose to replace the sadness with gladness in whatever way I can. Let me run down some of y'all's. I know I'm an hour and a half into this thing. No more weeping for me. Thank you, Melanie. It still comes, but there are so many people, so many fine people in this universe. And oh, Milky Way's on. I should cut this off so we can all run over there and watch Milky and Brian over there. I was trying to get done before anybody else came on. There is a video of Milky Way Weekly from 4 years ago. Yes, gratitude is also the key. Yes, Michelle. Yes, thank you, Brian. Has been excellent person. He still is, and I enjoy hanging out with you. Stay Woke says you just have to hope that they've kept track of each Sunday through Saturday since the beginning of the first week. Now we just put up names on the solar rotation. Exactly. Very good point. Stay Woke. Yeah, Milky Way Weekly is live, and so humans are the same strange terrestrial departing from human nature, choosing technology over our true path. Exactly. I agree with you. Stay Woke. I can't believe, Court says, I can't believe how much I've changed over the past few days. That's absolutely mitosis, says Michelle. All right. Listen, I know y'all need to want to go over there and hang out with Brian, and I do too. So I'm going to end this with a prayer at 7 minutes after 10. To each and every one of you, I thank you very much for your participation. I love you. I send out my love to all of you, my honor and my blessings. My prayer is that I wish that each one of you will accept and receive the healings, the knowledge, and the teachings from the universe. I pray that each one of you, your friends, your family, your neighbors, your relatives, and all of your relations will accept and receive the healings, the wisdom, and the knowledge of the universe. And third time around, I pray that each and every one of you will continue to accept and receive these blessings and continue to pass them around. Thank you very much. Head over to Brian's at Milky Way Weekly. And for now, South Georgia, TTFN, ta ta